Gentlemen, welcome to the Be the Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning. You know, our whole objective here is to share solid strategies and systems, tools, and training to help you be the man in every important aspect of our lives. Because our objective ultimately is holistic optimization, right? To take everything in our lives that actually matters and optimize it, meaning that in order to really thrive as a man, you have to optimize all the important areas of your life. And my philosophy is, if it's in your life, it needs to be optimized. And the reason that this even matters is because life can be so good. And being the man is so important that none of us can afford to be pathetic, right? And we just have to go all in. I mean, I don't know, life's awesome. Today is just another fantastic day to be alive. Even if, and especially if, you're facing something difficult or challenging. So I just wanted to share that reminder. Like, we're here to optimize our lives, to get better, to be the man in every way, in every part of your life. Today, our guest is a friend of mine, Ty Brown, and his story is awesome. He's better known as Ty the Dog Guy, and he built an empire training dogs. And his story is so phenomenal, starting when he was a young teen and was just struggling to get it going, just had a real passion, and reached out to another entrepreneur who gave him a shot, which is awesome. There's a huge principle in that story by itself. And then how he gets into it, and he ends up training phenomenal dogs all over the world, and these incredible experiences, and then coming back and starting his own business, and how they were just dead broke. And just that wrestling with trying to get a business off the ground and trying to get recognition and exposure. And then he does. He gets tons of publicity, and it takes off. And through this whole journey of working with all kinds of different people and places, and now they've got training locations across the country, literally coast to coast. He's got locations on the East Coast and the West Coast. They're doing millions in revenue, and has built this really successful brand. And it's beautiful. So there's tons of great lessons around business and beautiful lessons around life. And just being humble and being a good man and focusing on the things that really matter and bringing that into perspective. So you're going to enjoy this episode. There's so many great stories, so many great principles, so many great lessons. So dive in, enjoy this episode, take notes. Remember to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done that yet. And feel free to leave a review up to 5 stars for us, and comment, and reach out, connect with me on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, ask questions, and connect with our community. But dive in, fellas. I think you're going to really enjoy this show. Ty, man, I'm excited to catch up again, and grateful to catch up, because you and I talked. You guys went and lived in Costa Rica. How long were you in Costa Rica?
We were only there about a year.
Okay. So we went down there. So we connected because we had been in Costa Rica. So we connected back then and stayed in touch a little bit here and there over the years. So I'm excited to have you on the show, man, and share what you're doing. So why don't you start with giving us some of your background and the business you're in and what you do and how you got into it?
Sure. Yeah. I run a dog training business. I mean, I got into it from being a dog trainer. And so I wanted to do that ever since I was a kid. You know, when I was a kid, I was reading every dog training book that was in the library. I grew up in San Jose, California, which is a very big place. My parents wouldn't let us have a dog. So when I was 13, we moved an hour away out to the country, and they said, okay, we can get a dog now. And so got a dog, and it just wasn't enough. Like, you know, I was excited. I started doing everything I read in the training books. And there was a sense of, it was fun because, you know, here I was a 13, 14-year-old kid, insecure, right? Insecure. And now having this, because I was uncomfortable. I was a weird kid, and I don't know, I'm a weird adult, but anyways, having this dog and teaching this dog how to do stuff, and the dog loved me and I loved the dog, and seeing this dog's behavior change was really empowering and fun. And so I just opened up but I wanted to do more of it. So I opened up the yellow pages, and there was probably only 2 or 3 dog trainers in there at the time. The only one that answered the phone, I, said, hey, can I come work for you? I'll work for free. And he said, sure. And it turns out he had done the same thing when he was 16. He dropped out of high school and and went and begged a dog trainer to work for him. And that's how he got his start. So he was kind of, paying it forward and stuff like that. So I worked for him while I was in high school. After high school, I went on an LDS mission. So I was gone for a couple of years. When I came back, I didn't know that you could make a living with dog training. So, I really didn't know. The guy I had learned from, he didn't have much of a business. He's a great guy. Now he's got a great business. This is now 20 something years later. And he's got a great business. But at the time he was young, he didn't have much of a business. So I didn't have a role model to say like, oh, you can actually make money doing this. And so I just kind of farted around in jobs until I got a job when I was about 23 training protection dogs. So I went out to Boston with my wife. We were recently married and stayed in Boston for a couple of years, working at this company where we would import dogs from Europe, train them for the rich and famous all around the world. And I would travel around the world delivering these dogs.
Wow.
And I did that for a couple of years. That was a lot of fun. Have some cool stories from that. And then my wife got pregnant, and she wanted to stay home to take care of the kids, and we just couldn't do that, making the money that we were making in Boston. Boston's an expensive place, so we moved back to Utah, where we had met, and I started a business, and so that I would have been about 25, 26. I'm now 41. So I've had this business 16 years, something like that. And now we've got locations in a number of different states. We have an online course that we sell. We're decent for a dog training company. We're decent size. We do few $1 million a year. We've got, 30 some odd team members, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stress, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. Oh man, it's such a cool story. I love how, like, as a youth, as a young man, this is so relevant for those of us who are fathers, like this, letting our kids get interested in some kind of passion, letting pursue that. And I love how you reached out to that guy and he paid it forward, man, and gave you a shot. And think how his decision to give you a chance has shaped the course of your life.
Yeah, I don't know if you look back at your life, but there's like a handful of things that the cards just kind of were dealt in just the right way, that had they gone a different way, I don't know, maybe things would have worked out in a different way that would be also good. But yeah, like I look back, that was one of the most formative, like little things to where he was like, sure. And to this day, I'm super grateful. In fact, we live, 10 minutes away from him now. I haven't lived in California for years, for decades. We finally moved back and we live near him. And it's been nice to catch up with him and see how his business has grown. But yeah, life kind of deals you some cards sometimes. And that was a good deal.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it just makes me think, like, I want to be that guy for other people. I want to give people a shot. And who knows where it might turn out for them, like this guy did for you.
Yeah.
And that's a cool story. Okay. So you get into it, you start going, you had experience, one, which I think is key there. You got to train those protection dogs and travel all over. So you're meeting people, getting tons of experience there. You're getting an expertise. How did you, like, what do you feel like made the difference, man, that you didn't end up just being some little teeny little trainer shop in a small town? How did you grow? Like what made the difference? What are the elements that has helped you be successful?
Good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. And so here's what had actually happened. While I was living in Boston working for this company, I found an article of a guy, and this guy's now my friend. We're good friends now, but a guy who I read an article and was like, this dog trainer is making $1 million a year selling an ebook online. And so this would have been 2004 or something like that, so way back in the days when online marketing wasn't, it was like newish.
Yeah, it's getting started.
Yeah. And he was making a killing, with his ebook, and so I was like, I want to do that. And so I started studying internet marketing in about 2004. When I started my business in 2005, by that time we moved back to Utah, started my business in 2005. I knew it was going to be, I knew I wanted to do it through the internet. I actually wasn't intending on starting a dog training business. I wanted to start a business like what he did, where it was just all online, right? And I never figured that out. I never figured out how to just sell like an ebook or a video course and make millions of dollars. I do sell a video course and we make money off of it, but like I never figured out what he did. And nowadays it's actually way, way harder. And there's very few people that can in our industry. But anyways, but along the way, I was like, I need to make money because I was working just some dead end job, like trying to figure out how to do this. It was a graveyard job and I needed to make money. So I was like, well, while I'm trying to figure this out, let me do a dog training business. And so I would go do my graveyard factory job, which was soul crushing at night. And then during the day, I would work on internet marketing and I'd work on building this business. And I didn't intend to do that. But that is the business that started taking off. Very like within a month of starting the business, I got a spot on a very popular radio show in Utah on 97.1 for any folks that have ever lived in Utah. And I started going on 97.1 every week to talk about dogs and stuff like that. And so that part started taking off. The solely online stuff just always like did okay and stuff like that. So like I say, I never intended to do it. But once I did do it, it was the pressure of now having a kid at home. Very soon after our first two kids are 17 months apart. So very soon after we were pregnant again, it was the pressure of that pushed me, that I gotta make money for this family. I gotta push and I gotta learn marketing. And it turned out I loved the marketing piece. And that's where most of my day is spent now, the marketing and the sales. And it turned out I was very good at it and I loved it and it was natural to me. Plus I just dove deep into it. And so, but for me, it was that pressure, that pushed me and to just work my butt off for years to make it happen.
Oh, brother, I love it, man. There's so much gold right there in your story. Because you're right, there's like pressure is so valuable. The right kind of pressure is amazing. And it's interesting. There's so much now. It's just the environment and kind of the parenting and what's going on in society. There's a lot of emphasis and attempt to avoid pressure and parents wanting to remove pressure from their kids and keeping that away. But you're right. There's such a great spot for that where the right kind of pressure can get us to do what needs to be done and to really chase down success, achievement. So that's a huge insight there, man.
Yeah. But do you find yourself, I don't know. I think I've read some of your story. I think you had a hard upbringing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was out on my own at 16.
Yeah. And then pressure pushed you to do some good things. I find myself wanting to take pressure off my kids and doing it sometimes to their detriment,
Exactly.
And so do you do the same thing?
Yes. And then I catch myself. I'm like, wait a minute. What am I doing? Why am I trying to shield them from something that made me who I am? Mm-hmm. But you're right. It's like, well, and part of it is our lives are so affluent now. I mean, you and I, we have great businesses, great lives. We live in a great time. And I don't know what it is, but culturally there's just this environment of, we want to step in, we want to give them things that we didn't have. But you're right. In giving them things that if they don't really earn it, if there's no price tag on it, if we remove some of the pressure, we inadvertently remove some of the growth.
Yeah. I don't know how to walk that line because I want my kids. Well, and I know you do this too, but like we give our kids tons of experiences and they get cool tutors and like, I don't know, yesterday my daughter's in the kitchen. She has this chef on TikTok that she likes. And so we hired the chef on TikTok to give her cooking lessons virtually from, I think she's in New York or something. So anyways, like we're always doing stuff like that.
Yep. And
I think that's wonderful.
Agreed.
But like I say, at the same time, I feel sometimes it's shielding them from the growth. I don't know. It's a fine line that I don't know. I don't know when I'm crossing it the wrong way, when I'm staying on the right side of it. It's anyways, but yeah, that's tough to know like exactly what pressure to shield them from and what pressure to not shield them from.
Exactly. No, you're right. And I'd say it's never really black and white. It's fuzzy sometimes. And I'm with you, man. I think you and I are spot on. Like we hire tutors from all over the place. We get the best trained, best experience. We spend tens of thousands of dollars a year taking our kids all over the world for experiences or to introduce them and expose them to great things. But then you're also right. It's like, well, you got to find out what kind of pressure works, because you don't want to crush the kid. You don't want to put too much pressure or too early, but finding out that balance of what works there so that they feel they're the load and like, hey, I got to do something about this.
Yeah.
What's beautiful about your story and mine is like, man, you get married and then you have a kid. You're like, it's on me.
Yeah.
I got to do something here. When it's almost like your back's against the wall and you have to own it, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's transformative. The other thing I wanted to point out or emphasize that you said was so awesome is you didn't just stick with the identity of being a dog trainer. Like you deliberately became a marketer and a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
So you took your expertise and you didn't just stay with that. You're like, man, I got to market this and I got to learn how to effectively run a business.
Yeah. And that's the hard part, right? Because people get into these passion businesses, whatever it is, they get into a passion business and they want to do the passionate thing, and no one's passionate about doing payroll. No one's passionate about answering emails at 2 a.m. No one's passionate, you got to do the unpassionate stuff to do your passion, which is the thing that kicks a lot of people right there square in the crotch. So,
Yep,
so yeah.
Exactly. But that's a game changer. And I think that's one of the things that's helped you to win, man. How did you get on? Because on your site, I mean, you ended up not just on that radio station, you've been on the news a bunch. You've been all over. How did you get in front of people? How was it when you started getting attention? And I guess for a lot of us, those of us who are in business and entrepreneurship, or we want to get our kids in it, like our greatest challenge often is just getting out of obscurity, like letting people know we exist.
Yeah. In the very beginning, I don't know what gave me the idea. I'm sure I read it somewhere. I'm sure it wasn't my idea. But one thing I learned real quick, because I got a lot of press my first couple of years because we were broke. Like I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a cell phone. One of the first dogs I trained in trade for this old Ford Ranger that didn't have third gear, air conditioning, heating, any of that. And that was how I got to clients. I would park down the street so they wouldn't see my vehicle when I would go to clients and stuff like that.
This is awesome, man.
Yeah. And so it eventually died. Thankfully, it got me through like the first year. It died and we were able to buy something else. But anyways, I didn't have any money. Like I had $10 a month that I allocated towards hosting for the website that I built myself. And that was it for business expenses. We didn't have cell phones at the time. We bought one VoIP line that was maybe $10 a month or something like that. And that was our business line. And so when we needed to do personal stuff, we would let people know like, hey, this is our business line. So they didn't think it was weird when they called back. But anyways, we had one phone line, we had one website, and that's it. And so I knew I had to get exposure, and I didn't know how to do it, as a 25-year-old kid or whatever. So again, I don't remember what gave me the idea. I'm sure I read it, but it was, I think April is not April. I want to say April. I think April is National Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month or something. You know how there's a month for every bloody thing out there.
It's getting to be a holiday for everything now.
Yeah, for everything. And so as a radio station I really liked, it was the one that I was already listening to. And I knew they had pets because they talked about it all the time. And so I just called them up and I said, I left the messages until I was, and I basically said, hey, did you know that April's National Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month? You guys should get a dog trainer on there to talk. I could do it. I'm a dog trainer. And they were like, sure. And so it was as simple as that. And then it was as simple as that every time. So, I would approach a newspaper if I had now I don't want to oversimplify it. You have to have a good idea. But basically what I learned pretty quick in that first couple of years is like these outlets, I mean, they have multiple people whose entire job is just to find content, to put on the radio, I got in the newspaper a bunch, got on TV a bunch. I went on the TV once because there was a pit bull that attacked somebody down in Orem, Utah. And the coverage I didn't think was very good. I think that they were misrepresenting dogs in general. And And so that was it. I just reached out and said, look, hey, I think the coverage was maybe skewed the wrong way. I'm a dog trainer, and here's what I believe actually happened, blah, blah, blah. And so they invited me on.
Wow,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. So that was another one. I started getting I got a lot of Latino clients because I reached out to a Spanish language magazine and said, hey, can I write an article for you about dog training? And they said, sure. So I did an article for them. And so basically the attention was just there for the grabbing because nobody goes and tries to get it, and so they have these producers that are spending all this time trying to get it. And so if you can get in front of the producer with a good idea, then the producer is going to be grateful to have you on.
Right.
And once you've done a little bit of that, and then your website ranks and stuff like that, then they start coming to you because they're just looking for dog training expert in Utah or whatever. And then you pop up, and they give you a call. So it was kind of a combo of both. I was seeking it at first, and then after that, it starts coming to you. Being honest, like I don't even seek it anymore. It's good to get attention, but in my opinion, there's so much better ways to get clients. And so anyways, working with press is a little bit annoying to me. It might not be for everybody. Maybe some people would really like it. It's a little bit annoying. So I don't even try to get it anymore, but it's one of these things that if you want it, it's really easy to go get if you just come up with good ideas.
That's such a cool principle and practice there. So what are you doing now? I mean, because you're coast to coast. You're in California. You've got training like literally on the East Coast. What, Charleston, Savannah? I mean, you're coast to coast, and you go all over the world. How do you do your marketing now? Who are your primary clients? What are you doing for them?
So there's two main parts to my business. Yeah, what you referenced. We've got a location in California, Utah, Knoxville, Savannah, Charleston, and just opened one up in Wilmington, North Carolina. And so I run that. And when I say I run that, I'm mostly doing the marketing and sales for our own business. And then I do consulting for other dog trainers, and I help them with their marketing and sales. So those are the two main parts of my business. And so what was your question?
So who are you marketing to? How are you doing your marketing? And who are your biggest clients?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So the marketing we do is primarily just online advertising combined with, just having a website that is SEO optimized that people come to, for free. But we run a lot of Facebook ads, we run TikTok ads, and we drive people to a funnel. The funnel gets people to enter their information. We've got a small team of people in the Philippines that make phone calls that then call those people and book them into evaluations with our trainers. Fantastic. And then the trainers try to sell them. And so our clients now primarily you're just normal working class. I mean, we've had a lot of cool, like famous clients and stuff like that, but most of our clients are just your neighbor, and just people that have a dog and they've got problems and they need some help.
Yep. So you're fixing a problem. It's a little problematic, and maybe we can get into that a little bit, but like, because the lack of training creates a little problem, and then you guys come in and solve a problem. Yep. Which is that's business right there. That's the marketplace. Is just notice a problem, and this is a very common problem.
Yeah.
With dog problems, right? And then come in and solve the problem. That's super awesome. So, okay, let's talk for a second about the higher end stuff. I know you did protection training. Do you still do some protection training? Like what, and maybe search and rescue? Like what, I don't know. I love dogs. I kind of geek out about this. Like what have you seen like the capabilities of a canine, man?
Yeah. So I love that. In fact, we were trying to get a TV show done with that called Blue Collar Dogs. I even had somebody that was in TV, do a pilot with me and stuff because I love the working dog aspect. And so never got it to take off. So maybe one day. But yeah, so do we do much protection dogs? To be honest, not a lot. It's a hard market because very few people have the money it's going to require to put into, because it's so much money to do protection work. There's so much time.
We're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, if you're buying a fully trained dog, yeah, 30, 40, 50, $60,000 and up, and so just enormous amounts of money. Yeah, I mean, anyways, but if you're going to do it on your own, now we're talking thousands of hours that, somebody, and so you can save a lot of money if you're going to do it on your own, but most people don't have the time.
Right.
They'll tell us they do, like, oh, I want to do this, and we'll like, hey, it's going to be so much work, so much effort. And so nowadays, to be honest, like I talk so many people out of it, like that we don't do a whole lot. It's really hard to find the right, and the reality is most dogs can't do it. So most dogs can't do it. Most people can't do it. And so when you combine that, and on every block there's 2 dogs that need obedience training, and
exactly, at least
that's where 2. That's where we put our attention. And so it's fun. And so when we do it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of enjoyment. But we just haven't done as much of it. But yeah, like I say, these high-end dogs that we've worked with, these are dogs that have been raised in Europe, from the time they were puppies, with one specific goal in mind. Let's turn these dogs into dogs that can protect and that can do stuff like that. And so when we do it, we'll purchase a dog, from Europe, it's a year-old dog, 2-year-old dog, something like that, that's got some training. We'll bring it over, finish the training, and then, place it with the client and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's fun. It's like, it's sexy, having ridden on like private jets and helicopters and yachts and stuff like that. And I'm not like that's not my thing. I'm not, anyways, yeah, it's not my thing.
Still a cool experience. Very cool experience.
Yeah, I had one client, we did one dog with, and they were in Salt Lake, but they had a ranch out in Wyoming, and they took me out there on their Gulf Stream. And it was awesome. And then a few years later, we did another dog for them, and I kind of like, hey, we should go out to your ranch, and they're like, okay. But this time it was funny because I show up at the hangar there in Salt Lake, and the client, she's like, I'm really sorry, the Gulfstream's not available today. We're gonna have to take the Learjet. And I was like, lady, I'm a dog trainer. Like, getting on a private jet is like the highlight of my year. And so I don't know the difference. Like, yeah.
How do you know what you're talking about?
Yeah, this is awesome that we're riding on a jet. So thank you for like even doing that. But yeah, so anyways.
Oh, that's pretty awesome, man. Well, and just on that, because I'm always curious. I've reached out to you a couple times, being like, hey, what kind of dog? What breed of dog? What's the best dog? But just for people who are listening who maybe care, what do you think, like some of the, I guess at least your favorites, maybe. I don't know if there's a best kind of dog, but some favorite dogs, even dogs you own, because I know you have some protection dogs yourself, but favorite breed of dogs and why and what for, just out of curiosity.
My favorite's always been the Rottweiler. I love them. I identify with them. Like I feel like I've got a Rottweiler personality. I'm a big dude. Like, anyways, like I really identify with Rottweilers. I love them. I had an amazing Rottweiler for 11 years, and he was protection trained. And it's really hard to find a Rottweiler that can do protection training. And so
interesting. So just because it's a Rottweiler and just because it's from a good pedigree doesn't mean it can do it. Correct.
Yeah. In fact, I would say most could not. Overall, like most could not, which is why, they're so expensive. There's just not that many out there that can do it. And so same thing with like Dobermans. It's very rare to find a Doberman that can do it. Now you start moving into things like Belgian Malinois, German Shepherds. Now you can find a lot of dogs capable, but even then, out of the pool of Belgian Malinois that exist, or German Shepherds, most can't be really phenomenal protection dogs and family protectors and stuff like that. So for me, I currently have a dog. She's from the Azores Islands. She's called a Fila São Miguel. She's from Portugal. Yeah, do a Google search on Fila São Miguel. They are the most unique looking breed. They're cool. She's in the room with me right now, but she's sleeping. And they are super cool, super fun. You should get one when you're in Portugal.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was like, okay, I'm going. I'll go get one from the Azores.
Yeah, there's breeders on the peninsula, but then there's breeders, of course, out in the Azores. They're very Azorean in that the Azores people are, proud of them. There's this one town with a statue of this dog and stuff like that. And so it's the full breed. The full name is Cao de Fila de São Miguel, and so which is dog of the lines of São Miguel. And São Miguel is an island out in the Azores. And so So anyways, I've got a dog from that just because I like rare stuff, rare breeds and stuff. And so she's a very, very rare dog. And so, but it's personal preference. Like a lot of people wanting protection dogs are going to go German Shepherd. German Shepherds are too whiny and needy for me. I don't like that. Belgian Malinois are pretty popular, but they're too intense for me. It's hard to live with a Belgian Malinois. They're just so insane. And so, don't you guys have like Cane Corso or something?
So yeah, we have had in the past. Love Cane Corso. They're my favorite. Just amazing dogs.
Yeah,
so incredible.
Yeah, we train a lot of them. We get a lot of you got to be careful where you're getting them because we've trained so many of them. They've gotten popular enough to where people who don't know how to breed them are breeding them, and you end up with some of the most aggressive dogs that we like. Not good aggression. Some of the most aggressive dogs we've worked with have been the Cane Corsos. They can be nuts. So
it was probably about 10 years ago. They just started getting more and more popular. Now they're all over the place. Yeah. So this is again, curiosity. I'm kind of geeking out here. Like you've been around it so much, which again, there's a huge principle there of expertise, right? Of the path of mastery. When you spend the tens of thousands of hours, you can look at a puppy or a dog and you can see things, immediately that most of us are like, what are you talking about? Right. Because of that familiarity and that mastery, what does it take? What's in a dog and what can you see or not see that makes it one of those rare individuals that can actually handle that top level stuff? I think there's a lesson here for all of us, but
yeah, I think it's a good question because, one thing I get a lot, like, so people will call us up and I want to train my dog for protection. And I'll ask them, I'll say, like, what is it about your dog? Most dogs can't do it. Is there something about your dog that makes you believe that your dog can? And the one thing I hear time and time again is like, oh, he's so smart. I think he can do it because he's so smart. And the reality is, like, most people aren't really a good judge of how smart their dog is. But intelligence has nothing to do with it. I shouldn't say nothing. That's not true. It would be nice to have an intelligent dog. But intelligence is, if we're talking priorities, intelligence is priority number 8, or I don't know, it's down there. But when I'm looking for a dog that can do protection, I want to see a dog that has strong prey drive, meaning he wants to chase things. So there's a natural drive within him that I can then channel towards, now you chase this thing, it's a rag. And now you chase the tug toy. Oh, you know how you used to chase the tug toy? Now I'm going to put that on my arm. Now you bite this sleeve thing. Now you bite the sleeve thing on the leg, and so you take the dog's natural desire for chasing something, you channel it towards that. Yeah. Then I want to see confidence, because a lot of dogs want to chase things, but they're not confident. So I want to see confidence. And then I want to see a dog that's stable, that, he wants to chase things, but he's not like on crack crazy all day long, just crazy and, trying to bite the walls and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And so, if we are comparing it, because I have compared this to business quite often, I've seen there's been a lot of people in my career. One thing that's really cool is dogs are a great equalizer. People who are experiencing homelessness love dogs. Yeah. Billionaires love dogs, and everywhere in between loves dogs. And so, in fact, here in California, where I am now, we've had several clients that are homeless, that have hired us. And then I've had several billionaire clients. And so anyways, they're the great equalizer.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things that I've seen is a lot of like business leaders and stuff like that. And some of them are bright, just genius. But then I've seen like a lot of people that are like successful. And I'm like, man, like, you can't even write a sentence. Like, you struggle to communicate or whatever. And so it's like the same thing. Like, being smart isn't going to make you successful. It's nice, it's a good quality, but like, there's a lot of people who aren't smart, who are broke. And there's a lot of people who aren't smart that have done really good things in business. It's the same with dogs. Like, do I want a smart dog? Sure. But if I'm looking for a protection dog, that's not the first thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for other stuff. And if there's smartness, great. And if there's not smartness, you can still have a really you can have a really great protection dog. That's not the smartest dog in the world, because he's got drive, he's got balance, he's got courage, he's got all of these other wonderful characteristics. we can channel all of that, and then we can be his guide and, make sure that he's not making dumb choices.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of the same in humans. Intelligence is phenomenal, but like
it's just one element.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's huge. And thank you for articulating that so well, because you get thinking like, well, wait a minute, how many of us write ourselves off with something before we even attempt it?
Mm-hmm.
We bail out because, well, I'm not near as smart as that person. And so we don't even try. And maybe like you're saying, hey, intelligence is actually down the list for success in that thing. And you want to pursue this. We write ourselves off. We'll often maybe in this role of being a teacher or a mentor, or geez, heaven forbid, some people do it even with their own kids. They're like, well, this kid's always struggled with this, so they're not going to be successful or happy or whatever. You're like, no, man, this is one element. It's like there's all these other things. There's so many great ways, and you're right. I think as a society, or as individuals, we misalign things or totally misread things where there's all these other elements and all these other pieces to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that, man. There's this really great book by Thomas Stanley called The Millionaire Mind. And he talked about that. He interviewed all these and he made, he had all these requirements, what legitimately successful, right? And he reached out to him and all, he's just taking surveys. He wasn't asking a specific question. He wasn't looking for something specific. He just wanted to say, what are the common denominators? And what he found across the board was surprising and went against like common thinking. You think, oh man, if you get really good grades in school, then you'll be successful. Now we've been told that so many times. And he's like, there's no correlation, none. Like, it had nothing to do with it. Grades, the only place grade mattered was if you wanted to stay in academia. It's like, otherwise, it was nothing. It's like the number one thing was communication skills. They had people skills, right? And so you look at all these different pieces and like it plays out in life and whatever you're trying to pursue, like what is it that actually matters? What is it that actually makes a difference? And man, that's beautiful. That's a really great insight, man.
Cool.
That's cool stuff.
Is that the guy who did The Millionaire Next Door?
Yes. Yep. Thomas Stanley. Yeah.
Okay. I read that one. That was a really good one. Yeah. Interesting stuff when you actually get into the data.
Exactly. It was super cool. All right. So you built up the business. You're all over the place. You've worked with, I was reading some stuff, really famous athletes and even one time a mafia guy in some foreign land somewhere.
I've actually done 2 mafia people now, which surprised me. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. They would have protection dogs, right?
Yeah. One that I always tell this story because it makes me laugh. I don't know if you're going, anyways, sorry to interrupt you.
Go for it. No, go.
There was this one, I had this client, they were in Beverly Hills. And it was a Doberman. It wasn't actually a protection dog. They wanted it to be a protection dog. But when I got there, I was like, there's no way this dog's ever going to be a protection dog. They had spent a ton of money, from a breeder who was just kind of took them. Anyways, so I was mostly dealing with mom, the son, and the security. They had a security team and the security head. He was like the home manager and manager over security. And so anyways, I'm staying at this hotel. I'm working with them throughout the day. I'm there maybe 4 days or something like that. On day 2, I hadn't met the dad, but I'm out by myself and I'm pottying the dog, over on the lawn. And I see who I believe to be the father across the pool. And I just kind of like, look, hello, good morning, whatever. And he's on the phone. He looks at me and he just walks away. And then later that day, the security guy comes up to me and he says, if you see him again, don't look at him, don't acknowledge him, do not talk to him, put your head down and leave wherever you are. And I was like, what? Okay. Like, I wasn't going to question it at that point. I was just like, okay. But anyways, like that night I go back to the hotel and like, I didn't even know the guy's name going into, because I knew like the security consultant. He's the one that had hired us. Right. And so I had found out the guy's name. I don't even remember it now because this was 8 or 9 years ago. And it was a Russian name. And it was hard to remember. But I knew it at the time. I'd seen it on a piece of mail. I don't even remember, but I got his name. So I go and I Google it, and somebody had this like website of, it was like a fan website of Russian mafia, guys. And he was like this top Russian mafia guy, and very famous in Russia for his, union busting and all sorts of mafia stuff that he had done. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I will leave the room if he
Yeah,
comes
exactly.
in. Yeah,
I will not be greeting that guy anymore.
yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Actually, this is a really good lead in. That was one of the things I was curious about. What have you learned about people and life by working with dogs and working with people and their dogs? What are some of the things that kind of stand out over the years of like, maybe there's patterns or just interesting stories? What have you learned about life and people by working with them and their dogs?
Yeah, that's a broad question. But what I have found is that, and I lump myself in with this, that when people want change, they're very rarely willing to do what it requires to get change. In fact, we've noticed, like, so we've got what we call our signature program. And I know that if somebody does 75% of what we ask them to do, they will be our biggest advocates forever. I know that if they do 50% of what we ask them to do, they're going to be really happy, probably enough to even give us a positive review. I know that if they do 25% of what we ask them to do, they will see positive change. Like, it won't be as much as they want, but anyways, it is rare that we find somebody that's willing to, they're hiring us as experts. It's rare to have somebody just like really, really follow through. I think that's the nature of humans. And it's a conundrum that's stuck with me for years. And one of the things that I've learned to do that helps me in solving problems is just ask a question and sit with it, for weeks, months, years. And that's a question that I've asked myself over and over. And I believe it's one of the ways that it's helped us really improve our business is this question of, why would somebody give us thousands of dollars knowing they were going to have to do work and then not do the work? And so exactly. As I've sat with that, I've recognized over and over and over, the only solutions I can come up with are going to be me centric. I can't make solutions that they're going to do. So all I can do is make things more straightforward for them. And so it's one of the things that's helped us improve our product so much and our service so much, is recognizing, because within our industry, it's very, and probably most industries, but within our industry, dog trainers, like, they get on Facebook groups and they're like, oh, I've got a client that's not putting in the work. What do I do? And people are like, not your problem. They paid you, you did your job, not your problem. And ultimately there's a degree of truth there. But as I've sat with it, I've realized, well, what if we did this? It might make it easier for them to do this. What if we did that? It might make it easier. And so as we've tried to streamline the process, we've taken it upon ourselves to say, we know they're not going to do as much work, but how can we streamline the process such that we can get the most performance out of them? Therefore, they're going to be the happiest. But like I say, I think just human nature is that we want the result, and it's really hard to put in the effort. And as a result, we will find shortcuts and stuff like that. And I do it. I'm sure everybody does it with stuff that's not like their big passion and stuff like that. I mean, some people get super passionate about fitness and they'll do everything perfect, or dog training, they'll do everything perfect, or wakeboarding and they'll do it, but most people will not. And so, I don't know. I don't know if that's a takeaway.
Yes, that's huge, man. That's a huge takeaway. And you're right. And I think maybe some of us might do it as a whole, kind of just our personality, our way of being. We don't really finish or follow through, or like you were saying, maybe it's just one area of our life. Physically, we might be doing great. Mentally, we don't do anything, or emotionally or spiritually or socially or financially, whatever it is.
No.
But following through, and man, what I hear you saying is like, set up systems and strategies that actually work. This is one of the things I talk about quite often. Is we set up, we all have systems. We all are operating by systems, right? And the system either supports our success or sabotages it. Yeah. And so you make such a valid point there of like, if the system's difficult, yeah, your completion rate is going to be terrible. So I love how you take this, that you're taking ownership instead of blaming it on the client or the customer, just taking even deeper and deeper ownership of like, what can I do to make this easier? How can I set up a system or strategy that makes it even more likely? And then at some point you're like, yeah, it's on you, right? The client's got to take it. But how cool it is. And this is so instructive for all of us. the client who finishes more gets more results and has a better experience. I mean, done.
You know, what I've found is that work ethic and application. So there's some people that we work with that they're 2 left feet. You know, they have no natural skill when it comes to a dog. And there's some people that have natural skill when it comes to a dog. And so if you take that person with natural skill with poor work ethic, and you take the person that has no natural skill, but they bust their butt, I'll tell you, because we see it. When clients are done with their training, they're welcome to come out to our group classes, and you'll see this person that had no natural ability, but their dog is outperforming the talented guy because, they were willing to put in the effort and no one ever is perfect, but they tried and they really did a good job. Whereas the guy skating by on talent saw improvement, but, he's missing the fundamental pieces that are going to, get the dog where he wants the dog to be, at a higher level.
Huge. That is huge. Results, man. Results don't lie.
Yeah.
Results don't lie. And I love that. The person without the natural talent puts in the work, comes in, and guess what? The dog's better behaved. Yeah. They've got the results. Man, I love that. Love that. This is cool, man. This has been really insightful, brother. Any last piece of advice for men? And it could be anything that's working for you as a husband, as a father, as a businessman, as a disciple, anything you find like, this is working, or lessons you've learned over the years. Here's what's cool about your experience and my experience. We get to work with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different places. And just that experience of interaction with so many different human beings, there's insight there. If we're not blind, deaf, and dumb, I mean, you're going to see some patterns and some lessons. So any last piece of advice or thoughts for men being a better husband, a father, a businessman, a leader, working with people, working with animals, like what's working, what's not working? Maybe it's just a huge problem. I know I'm throwing this on you and giving a ton here, but
Gotcha.
just anything that comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good question. I struggle to be somebody that would say, hey, you should listen to my advice. And so anyways, I don't feel much in a position to say, hey, my advice to you is this. So I'll frame it in a different way, that like, not as advice, but an insight into my own life. Is one thing I'm getting better at as I get older is listening, and to whatever that means. Listening to what the dog's telling me, listening to what, the client's telling me, listen to what my kids are telling me, what my wife's telling me, in social situations, listening to what other people are saying. And so I used to be somebody who was much more, hey, let me throw my wisdom out there. I'm a smart guy, and I am a smart guy. I think a lot of us are smart people. But I feel like I'm getting better at listening. And I think it's turning me into a better human all over the place. I hope that doesn't sound conceited, but I think I'm becoming a better person because I'm willing to listen instead of just being ready to tell somebody what they should do, and just listen to what their experience is telling, and how they're experiencing life.
Yeah. And what's fascinating about that is so often there's even greater power in listening than in speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. The chance to influence or impact or connect or understand or learn or gain something from that, the power of listening. Yeah. I love that, brother. Awesome. Ty, this has been so awesome, man. Such great stories and great principles, great practices. I love it. How can people connect with you, or where are you at on social, on your site, your services? How can they find you? And if they've got a dog problem or a dog desire, where can they find you, brother?
Yeah, head over to tietheDogGuy.com. Simple as that.
Fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. And are you on social? Are you on the social platforms?
Yeah. We've got a Facebook page and a YouTube page and Instagram, I believe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. Brother, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for coming on and sharing these awesome lessons.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.